today we've got Nick Poppleton. Really looking forward to catching up. And hearing an insight into Nick's career to date. Nick is probably one of the hardest working golfers I know, and that's been shown so far in what Nick's achieved in the game. So to give everyone a very very kind of brief rundown. Apologies and stop me if I miss anything, Nick. But Nick turned professional. Nick turned professional last year. Currently holds a full card on the Europro Golf Tour. He won his first event as a professional anyway this year, the Crossland Heath in the 2020 Golf Tour. Obviously prior to this, Nick's had a really successful amateur career. To name a few highlights, I'm sure there's going to be obviously a lot more to come as well. Nick went on the Algarve Pro Tour as an amateur, which in that time, as you're looking to get going, really brilliant and a great stepping stone. Nick's also been part of the England squad, represented GB&I, and last but not least, which I can't obviously miss out, is Nick won a Brabazon Trophy for Ilford Heath in 2018. So obviously a really good golfer. It'd be really good for ourselves to get insight into to try and learn from Nick, today. So if I could just ask if it's all right for everybody at the moment, just to pop the mics on mute while we go around, and we'll start to ask some questions, and try and learn some stuff from you, Nick, if that's all right.
Yeah, perfect. Sounds good.
Perfect. So if we go to Dina and Danny.
We're on now. Oh, yes. Morning, Danny. Morning, Nick.
How are you doing? You all right?
Yes, fine, thank you. Are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good.
Good. Yeah. Anyway, first of all, thank you for coming onto Zoom and getting a few of our members at Lincoln Golf Club engaged.
No worries, no problem.
Simple question. As an amateur, were you planning to get to a pro status and get on the pro circuit or something? And who were you sort of following as a pro golfer in your sort of slightly younger days, shall we say, and why?
So my really sort of I always wanted to play for a living. That was always the goal. But I always was grounded by my parents keeping me in education. So me and Louis, first I went to Bobby Carr to do a sports science degree, more of a backup, and then obviously off to university where we did quite a bit of golf as well as this degree. So the main thing was to stay in education while trying to play. I actually didn't really decide that I wanted to play for a living until after sort of tournament golf college, because I looked and I'd been in education for 5 years to get the degree and my BTEC science. And I thought, well, actually, I have 5 years of education. I might as well have a couple of years at it now because, and see how my development went. And if I continued to develop and get better, I knew eventually I could play for a living. But if I'd have stagnated for a year and sort of not really got better, I would have then fallen back on my degree and gone, well, I'll maybe sort of coach or teach. But golf's always been that passion, and sport's always been that passion. So anything in sport would have been, a win for me to actually do something that I love as a career, opposed to it directly being golf.
Yeah. And were you following any professional in your life as a?
I've been lucky to work for Peter Cowan, just doing some hours down there at his golf academy. So I followed quite a lot of Willett's career because Dan was sort of a European Tour player and he was getting taught by Pete when he won the Masters. So he was sort of my era of being successful. Obviously, Matt Fitzpatrick was around, so Matt was playing a lot of good stuff. He was starting his career up on the European Tour, so I got a good insight to see those, practice play, go about their business. So they were people I would sort of watch and aspire to become, but they were only because they were on my sort of doorstep. I was very lucky to obviously be part of the academy where I could just watch. I remember sitting down on a golf lesson with Graham Storm, and I watched Pete taught Simon Dyson in the morning and had him for a couple of hours, and then Graham Storm came in at 11 o'clock, and Pete we sat down having a cup of tea, and Pete was like, who's the best player out of those two? And you would have never ever said anybody else but Simon Dyson, because he hit it so good. I mean, he literally was an athlete. And And I looked at, and Pete showed me the numbers actually, and Graham Storm was by far the better earner on tour, and it just showed that the difference between being a really good, experienced player and following somebody that actually just goes about the business and does it their way. And then the week after, he beat McIlroy in the South African Open in the playoff, Graham Storm, to win the South African Open. And it was like, wow. Like, these guys that you can sit, and they're just normal guys that you're rubbing shoulders with. I mean, Graham sits down and have a cup of tea with us halfway through his lesson like it's just the normal thing. So I've been very lucky to see some of the best players in the world go about the business. So they would be the players I've sort of known, and Graham would, when he comes down for lessons, is always sort of, he keeps an eye on me, and I keep sort of always watching him to see he's coming back from injury. So he's had quite a long break for his wrist, and he's sort of coming back now, Graham. So obviously the success that Dan's had is phenomenal. To be at the lowest low and then to come back to where he is now is so hard to do stuff like that, and it shows how much grit and determination Willet's got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries. Not a problem.
No, that's brilliant. Thanks for that, Nick. Are you there, Tony? Should we move across to Tony?
I have to swipe across my screen.
Is Tony on?
I've got a small screen. Where's Tony? Try and find Tony.
I think he can listen, but I don't think he can answer.
Can he not? Right. We'll move on quickly and we'll come back. Are you there, Ernie?
There we are.
There we are.
I can see Ernie now. I can't hear him though.
Oh, right.
Ernie? Hello?
You might need to put your microphone on, Ernie. We can't hear you.
It's usually me with the technical problems.
No, it's me. I'm terrible.
Ernie, your microphone.
If you could write it down.
I don't think your microphone's working.
Should we move on? We'll come back to Ernie. Graham, should we come to you next, Graham?
Is it me or is
Yeah.
it?
There we go. We've got Graham.
Yeah, I can use the microphone. Just wondering, Nick, and again I echo what Danny Shaw said earlier. Thanks for your time this morning. It's always interesting.
Thank you. No worries.
It's always interesting to speak to people that have got the golfing talent and what we aspire to. But my question is more to do with the distinction between professional status and amateur status, and I'm wondering whether in the 21st century whether golf needs to kind of reassess that, and whether or not you think that amateur status is something that should be retained, or whether you think there should be no distinction these days.
I think realistically, looking at it from the point of view of the professional, I don't see, it's tough because I don't see any other sport pinning back their professionals saying, well, we'll make it harder for you. I don't see any sport going, well, we'll make the basketball hoop smaller because you're scoring more, free throws than you've ever scored before. Whereas I do see the environment needing, the economic benefits of probably pinning professional sports back. So smaller golf clubs can actually survive. So they don't need to extend their golf courses to unusable length for amateur golfers, and that would definitely help amateur golfers. I mean, I think the set of rules that get put on amateur golfers, not elite amateurs, but amateur fun golfers, they should be making it as easy as they possibly can for people to enjoy their golf, because my coach always says, nobody enjoys playing bad. When they have golf lessons and they play better, they get the bug of wanting to play more, which is what what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to achieve enjoyment and it be inclusive. So I understand both ways, because a professional wants to become the best player that they can become. So by pinning them back, by maybe changing the rules, by maybe changing the ball or the golf club, they're going to all sit there and moan about it because they want to be the best they can be. Whether that would affect the transition from an amateur to a professional, because the difference is different already, because the tournaments we play, we're not worried about 0.1 back. We stand and peg it up, and we know that we need to shoot 8, 9, 7 under to win. And that's all we're there to do. Whereas in amateur golf, you would always sit there and go, well, I don't want to get 0.1 back. I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to, you probably wouldn't try to be as aggressive because you're trying not to fail. You're trying not to shoot 80 rather than trying to shoot 61, 62 in amateur golf. So I think that mentally changes your approach to it.
I'd be happy shooting 80.
I think the transition between the two for anyone wanting to do what I do would then be harder, because you'd almost go from a level that you could do whatever you wanted with this ball. The ball would go further, or the clubs would hit the ball further, to then be pinned back. And I think that would athletes would probably struggle with the transition even more than they already do by doing that. So unless you categorised it as elite amateurs were in the same category as professional golfers, then the transition would be softened.
I was thinking more of the ability to play for money, not that I would ever win any money playing golf. But, this distinction between what an amateur can do and what the professional, you play for money. I think some people that distinction's necessary in the modern game.
I do think that golfers are overpaid. I mean, what they get paid to turn up some of the big guys is mental. But then I do like the fact that they are paid for what they achieve, opposed from being paid. But the difference between the two, I think some people see it differently. Some people are motivated by winning, and they're not bothered about the money. Some people are motivated by actually making money. But I think when you become an elite in any sport, you almost become a bit of a gambler. When I go and play with a couple of the guys at the golf club, we're always playing for something. Whereas I don't see that when I go and play with members from my golf club. Their first instinct wouldn't be, oh, we'll play for 20 quid a man. So I think the repetition of what we do eventually prepares you to play for money, if that makes sense. I think the more you repeat we're constantly playing, 20, 30 quid a man or anything, because
it's a competitive edge, isn't it?
Yeah, if we don't do that, we almost don't. It doesn't matter then. There's no consequence to, I take a picture of the lads at Rotherham Golf Club on the last green when I've took the money off them, with them all in the background to take the mick out of it, and they hate that. But that's the point. I'd hate being on the other end of it as well. I'd hate being stood in the back of the picture giving my mate 20 quid after he's just took it off me. So eventually it gives you a bit of motivation to practice harder, to work harder. And I think no one likes losing. Like I say, no one likes playing bad. But when there's a consequence to playing bad, I think it gives you a bit of more, fight and a bit more, grit. I wouldn't want to give Louis 20 quid playing him for 20 quid. I'd hate that.
I wouldn't want to give Fred 20 quid full stop.
Yeah, well.
Okay, thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks,
Nick. Thanks, Nick. Just for the record, I've never taken £20 off Nick anyway, so we'll leave that there. But
I've got your money framed here, Lou.
No, perfect. Should we try Ernie?
Hi, Nick. I've spoken to Ernie on the old-fashioned phone and Tony.
Right.
They can both hear you, and the fortunate thing is we can't hear them. So Ernie's question was, during the lockdown, how are you coping? What are you doing? How are you practicing? And what impact is it having on you financially and everything else while you can't go and career?
Yeah, so practice-wise, I've got this thing, just a meter ruler for rolling the ball down for putting practice. Quite a good one. I quite like that. I use that at tournaments anyway, so that's always a good one. I've got a mirror as well downstairs. So I've been doing some sort of start line stuff with my putting. Could you explain that a little bit more in detail, Nick? So the ruler basically, it's just a standard, what you do, builder's ruler. You see it like that, and what I do is put the ball in the hole on there. Yeah. And then basically just rolling the ball down the ruler. It rolls all the way down. If it obviously goes off the left side, it would be like I've imparted a bit of a pull. If it goes off the right side, I've imparted a bit of a push. So it's just, it's something that I do at tournaments as well. So that stays in the bag quite a lot. I like that one because it's simple.
Yeah.
With the putting stuff, obviously because you're on carpet, you can't do pace as reliable as what you could on a green. You're probably going to struggle to do green reading. So that's really simple. That's just pure start line, which I think is great because it's one skill that you can practice. And then when I practice, I like to break down the skills when I'm putting. So I'd also then do some mirror work to check my setup. So I've got a mirror that's downstairs that's just got a little start gate on the Vizio Phil Kenyon one. Just help you with your, start line and your setup. And I think at the moment, no one's really probably making big strides in their golf. They're probably just maintaining where they are. Even the guys in the net, they can't see the ball flight. They can't. So they're just sort of in a maintenance phase at the moment, opposed to it being like, I really want to improve over this period. So I've really been doing some of the drills that Pete Cowan gave me. So throwing a tennis ball against the wall is one of Pete's big ones. So if you pull it and open up too early, you throw it left. If I get it under me, I'd sort of throw it too high up in the air. So most of the things that I've been doing are just sort of movement drills and sort of stuff like that. But at the moment in time, there's not overly that much that the players can do. Even with a net, you can't see a ball flight. You can do a little bit of technical with your coach, but I really don't think it leaves you that quick. I think if you, in your head, you feel like you're getting worse, I think it's more mentally that you think you're getting worse, opposed from actually just sort of psychologically trying to put a positive spin on everything. I think when I look at it, I've probably, if I was a normal club golfer, I'd probably only play Saturday, Sunday at most. So realistically, I'd have only missed probably 7 or 8 days, 10 days golf maybe. We're in 5-6 weeks now. Probably missed nearly 15 days of golf. Missing 15 days of golf can't make you that bad.
No.
I think most club golfers probably do play Saturday, Sunday, and that's it. Some people are blessed that you get to retire early, you can get a bit more golfing, but...
that was Ernie.
Yeah. Is Ernie retired early? Has he got loads of golfing?
Yeah.
He's missing 5 days a week now.
Yes, 5 days a week. And I think it's important. I think we had a quick chat with Simon yesterday, and obviously Simon and everything else, and he was saying a similar thing to you on the mental aspect. The positivity while you're in lockdown and everything else is more key than actually going out and practicing and worrying about.
Yeah, definitely. I think that you've got to put a positive spin on things and just appreciate. We've been given an opportunity. We've all got us health at the moment, so. That's all that really matters. I mean, my partner works for the NHS, so she goes off to work every day and sort of exposes herself to an extent and then comes home. I mean, God, I couldn't do what she does because, really hard what she does. And for what she gets paid peanuts to put her life on the line. But, I think we've got it quite easy in comparison to what they've got. So I think we've just got to be grateful and, like say, put a positive spin on everything and just stay pretty calm and just do what we're told to do. And then when the time comes, I'm sure we'll all find his feet quite quickly.
That's brilliant. And I think, I chatted to Tony as well. Tony can hear us, by the way. I know we can't see him and we can't hear him, but Tony's very interested in listening. But he also was asking the question of normally, what is your day-to-day routine like? Run us for a normal Monday or Tuesday.
So a normal day would sort of consist with, I like to do my gym sessions afternoon-based, just personal preference. So some people go to the gym in the morning. I would go after as like a final day closure, but go off to the sort of get up, get ready, get prepped. Around 7 o'clock, his missus goes to work at 8, so we sort of sync up to an extent. Then first sort of course of the day would be go driving range, bit of short game practice straight away, sort of build up into a routine depending on what I want to achieve in the day. sort of write something down of, 9 o'clock I'm going to do this, 10 o'clock I'm going to do that, then I'm going to eat, then I'm going to do this. So I've got structure throughout the day. I picked that up off Nick Rowley when we were at university, me and Lou, because she was the king of structure, literally the queen of structure. She would know every second of every day what is she trying to do to achieve where she wants to be, because she had so much going on in her life that she had to be like that. And I said to her, I find that I'm losing days just practicing. Like, am I getting better? So by writing it all down and structuring out the day, I would have I'd have certain blocks of time which would put in different aspects of the game. So I would first go through a warm-up, which I know takes about 30 minutes, which is going through the bag of all the clubs, working my way up, hitting certain shots, hitting certain ball flights. Then I'd go into a session. So I'd probably go into, say it was a technical session, I would go into doing a little bit of technical work for 15 minutes, and then I'd probably put it under pressure. So I'd put it under the gun. So my flaw in my swing is that sometimes I get the path going too far to the right and I started too far right. So Nick, my coach, would always set up a drill of, you could use an alignment rod in front of you to start it left, but I always used more of a mental approach. So I'd imagine the 17th green at Sawgrass with the island green and the flag's back right. So if I start the ball right of the flag, it's in the water. Like, unless it's, right hooking drawing, it's in the water. But mentally, I would never think, I'll start it right of that flag, because if I do, it goes in the water. So I'd get 3 balls out, I'd pick a target, and I'd say, right, start it left of that, move it onto it. Start it left, move it onto it. So I'd reinforced whether my technical little session had made me better. Because if I couldn't do that, then actually probably I wasn't getting better at what I tried to achieve in my technical. So it gave me an answer of, well, what am I trying to achieve? So it doesn't matter whether it would be drawing it and trying to imagine a left flag and starting it right and drawing it onto it, or starting it left and moving onto it. It gave me feedback into whether my technique was in a good place and what my ball was doing, really. If it was starting right, I'd go to play golf straight after that and go and play and do some putting on the green. But I'd know what I'd got as well. I would then think, oh, well, if I'm blocking it that day, I can aim 15 yards left and just block it on target all day and not really mess with it. But if I'd not done that morning of that structure of doing that, I wouldn't know where my ball flight is and where I was on that day. So I always think that's quite a vital thing that most people miss out, because they generally just walk onto the tee and they're off. They don't know what's happening that day. And the next day I might be pulling it, so I might have to aim right of it. But I'm trying to work with what I've got that day to get the most out of my game. That's vital. So then I'd drive to the golf club, do the same thing with my putting. So my start line work. So if I was hitting the right hand side of the markers and I was pushing it off my rod, my ruler, I'd then think, well, I'm pushing it today, that's fine, I'll just aim a little bit further left. If I'm pulling it on that day and it's coming off the left hand side of my ruler, I'd then think, right, well, I need to use that to my advantage to know what I'm doing on that day. And then I like to do a lot of, I try and play every day when I'm playing golf. I'd have 2 or 3 days off, 2 days off a week generally, but I would try to play and put it under pressure. So got quite a few good games from Graham Walker, which are like target based. So you get points for hitting the fairway, like a Stableford. You get points for hitting your target on the green. So your target on the green isn't always the flag. So if you've got 190 yards in, and you say, actually, my target's the middle of the green, the flag's in a really awful place, but I want to hit it in the middle of the green, you'd measure where your ball is to the middle of the green, and that tells you sort of how many points you get for that shot, and then points for what you score. So then you're always under pressure under every shot. Every shot has a consequence. Every shot has something. Rather than hitting it in the rough and then trying to hit a good approach shot in, you've lost points in your fairway shot, and then you've made your second shot even harder. So it's that sort of a structure that I'll go through on the golf course in my daily routines, so that I know that I'm trying to get as many points as I can. Every shot matters, And I'll do that a lot before tournaments as well. If people get slack in practice rounds, they'll sort of they'll go for a practice round and they'll just be chucking balls everywhere in positions that they're never really going to hit it in because they're not under pressure of playing shots. So I'll play 9 holes with my scoring game to get me to know where, actually, when the pressure's on, where do I hit the ball? So then I can practice those shots if I need to, where I actually would hit the ball under pressure. So that's a sort of vital thing to do. I'll play 9 holes, come off the course, probably do some more putting, eat. Depending on whether people were about, would sort of go out and play people for money. You know, I do seek out a couple of the guys, Sam Rook, Bailey Gill, Sam Best, a couple of good players from around my neck of the woods. Just play off the bat, money in. Let's go play Ben Smith. I think Ben Smith, Sam Rook, Charlie Doherty, a couple of weeks before we locked down, before I went and won at the thing, we just all chucked 10 quid in, took money off them for 12 holes. But it's like constantly getting competitive golf with a consequence. And you cannot put a value on that for making you a better player. It's just so valuable. And then we sort of wind the day down with some more short game and then off to the gym and back home, probably to cook tea for the missus.
I think that's
the sort of general day.
I think that's a really good point, Nick. I think one of the things I noticed, especially with yourself, is that you hear a lot about the scrape and hit when you're practicing, and every session that you ever had was very, very structured, and you can almost take away from that session, I've got this out of today, which is obviously really important.
I picked a lot up off other people. I mean, it's always good to ask people. That stuff like this is great. I mean, there was one with Oliver Wilson, a friend of mine did a podcast with Oliver Wilson, and obviously Simons is Dyson's the same. You pick up stuff from people everywhere, and you have to pull it together and make sure it works for you, because some people don't need a full day practicing. They really don't. It would drive them mental. Tom Sloman, perfect example. Tom Sloman needs an hour. That's it. All he needs is an hour a day, and then go out and play. He doesn't need to go and practice his short game, practice his driving, practice his technical stuff, practice his putting. All he wants is just to go clip some balls on a range and go and play. But when he comes to play, he's ready, he's eager, he's keen. So he gets himself up for it in a different manner, in a different way, and he's learned that he doesn't need too much, because if he does all this practice, he gets onto the golf course, I don't want to be here. So it's all very individual. It's all very, and I've never been, as Louis will tell you, I've never been the type of player to sit on my bum and do nothing for a day. I find it hard to rest for a couple of days. So I'm always like, shall I go get some balls? Or when we used to stay in the villas, I'd go back at night time and be like, shall I go to the gym and be like, I'll go play, I want to play golf, I want to play par 3, I want to play night golf. It's like, I'm built in a way that always wants to do something, whereas some players aren't. So it's all about finding what sort of works for you and what helps you get better. Because if you're not getting better, like I said, if you stop stagnating and getting better, and you stagnate for a year, somebody else is getting better. So you have to either change something or think, well, this is not the career for me.
Yeah, I think to touch on that as well, about being under the gun, I think one question I did really want to ask you was, obviously the Brabazon Trophy goes to a playoff, second playoff hole, short of the green. Talk us through it. What was going through your head at that time, and is that all being under the gun that helps you prepare for moments like that?
So the first time we missed it sort of similar place, and I was like, well, let's play it sensible. Let's bump it up into the bank, play it sensible, play a good shot. Second time, I was thinking completely different. I was thinking, well, what am I trying to? I was trying to achieve something. I was trying to pick. I was so processed in what lie is it? Well, it's on the fairway, so it's a good lie. What land? Where do I want to land it? Well, I want to land it here because that's the most sensible place to land it. What loft do I want to use to land it there? Perfect. Off I go. I was so caught up in the process of what I was trying to achieve. What I was trying to achieve wasn't even in my mind. I was talking to my like, right, well, we'll land it on that blade of grass and we'll run it, bump it up. I wasn't trying to hold it. I wasn't even trying to hit a chip shot. All I was trying to do was piece the information together to play a good shot. And all that happened there is I just got all the information in. The lie was good. I got my lob wedge. I picked a good landing spot. I see the line of it going in. I wasn't thinking I'm going to hold this. I'm thinking this is what I want to achieve. This is the information I've got. I'll go and play the shot. I think sometimes you get so raveled up in the target, you forget that what you're trying to do, and it just came off for me that time. I mean, you can say I got it in the hole first. Wilco could have been the first one to get it in the hole. It could be a different story, but you're just trying to achieve the same thing and trying to stay positive, because we've just battled it out for 72 holes. One hole doesn't really determine who's a better player, but you're just trying to hit good shots. I mean, we had, I think it was 170 something, and 2 elite players missed the green 4 times out of 4. It's like we weren't really on it. You'd expect someone to flag it with 4 goes from that yardage, but that we're not thinking about the outcome, because as soon as you start to think about the outcome, I think you start to get so wrapped up in forgetting what you're trying to do. You're trying to hold it, but you're just trying to run through your process. And my process was to pick the landing spot, pick the loft, rehearse it a couple of times, and off I go.
And the rest is history, as I say, isn't it?
Yeah. And so I can't believe he nearly chipped in the first time. He rattled it round the flag. And I think we played 4 chip shots. I holed one. He lipped out and he rattled the flag and rolled it round. So literally, and my chip shot went to like 3 foot. It was the worst chip shot we hit. We put like a little bit of short game display on it. It was weird, really weird.
No, but that's brilliant. Just a little bit conscious of time with us having around about 5 minutes left. I just wanted to go around everybody again and just check if anybody's got any more questions that they'd like to ask Nick after what we've been. Should we go to Danny?
Hi again. Nick, when I'm watching golf television, be the European Tour or PGA, the commentators are often, before the round or in between, they're discussing the types of grass they play on. Kikuyu, you hit her off, and I don't know what's on the European Tour in the Emirates or somewhere. As amateur golfers, just go out and play. You don't sort of enter in your mind about the type of grass. How much seriously do you and your caddy take different grasses, and does that alter your game at all?
Yeah, so what we generally do is we'll carry a club that works on different grass types. So we have a lob wedge. Generally, it's just a lob wedge. So you see the bounce on the back there. So generally, it would be we'd shape it in a different fashion. We'd get a guy to grind. I'm supposed to be getting a Titleist to get some new wedges. So what generally I'd have done is I'd have less bounce on these 2 sides on sort of Bermuda or rye grass type. So when I was in Spain, I struggled quite a lot with my lob wedge because actually the grind was wrong. So I was going to go to see Titleist before we got locked in for a new set of wedges. So what most players will do is they've got the beauty of the tour van with them every week. So they just go in and say, build me a new lob wedge. I want this bounce. I want this grind on it. So that obviously helped. I think the way the ball reacts is obviously a big difference as well. So in England, you'll see a lot of people play bump and run shots because the first bounce that the ball has isn't a grab. It doesn't stop. Now, if you try to play that shot in America or Bermuda or sticky grass, the ball just bounces and stops. It spins. So you'll see them playing a lot of like lob wedge shots and a lot of longer shots that fly all the way to the hole. Now, the reason they're doing that is because they can't get the ball to roll. The ball won't roll on those greens. It will roll when it is rolling like a putt. It'll roll great on a putt because the grass is almost lied down rather than sat up. But when you throw a ball into that type of grass against the grain or down the grain, it sticks and it grabs. So it becomes easier to get a closer proximity to the hole with a lob wedge by flying it all the way. But like the grind and the bounce that they would have will be different depending on the grass types and the firmness of the ground. So obviously the beauty of it is they can carry 3 lob wedges with them, and then get to the tournament, practice on the practice green and go, yeah, this one works this week. I'll put this one in the bag. No, that one's not working. or they can nip across to the tour van and go, take me a little bit of bounce off this leading edge, or take me a little bit off the back edge, and it's done in 30 seconds. They sit and have a coffee with a caddy on the other side, and it's done, it's turned round. So for some players, I'm looking at, I get help from Ping, so if I would go to, I don't use their wedges, but I just go to Ping and say, I've got a little bit of a problem with this club, could you just grind the edge down? And they do it. So I'm lucky that I can do that. Some players would have to adapt and just adjust their technique a little bit when they get to tournaments with different grass types. But that comes down to your preparation and how much time you get in prep. Sometimes you get more time to take that into consideration, sometimes less.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nick.
No worries.
No, that's brilliant, Nick. Just conscious that we're pretty much going to run out of time very shortly. So just obviously on behalf of Lincoln Golf Club, I want to thank you for your time this morning. It's been brilliant to catch up, really insightful, and obviously wish you all the best for this year. Like I say, be good to be good to see you soon. Hopefully, see you at the club if you're ever free for a game.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have to have a nip over. Hopefully, you guys stay safe. We'll be back playing golf as soon as it's safe too.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for your time, Nick. Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Take care.